Hello and welcome to attaQ. My name is Jakob. I'm your host, and you're watching a attaQ episode. And in this episode, we're having a look at connecting the Roland MC-101 to an iPad or an iPhone. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, this thing does not have audio inputs, nor does it have any sample chopping abilities. But you can record audio into the looper mode over USB, and you can always sample and chop up your samples on an iDevice. And that's pretty sweet because when it comes to an iPhone, at least, this is something I carry with me all the time. And I absolutely love the combo here between the Roland MC-101 and the iPhone or an iPad because it allows me to be completely mobile. And in the case of an iPad with a USB-C port, well, it turns out that this thing can actually power the Groovebox directly without any need of any wall wart adapters. Now, unfortunately, you cannot do that with lightning equipped iDevices. So yeah, if you want to connect your Roland MC-101 to an iPad with a USB-C port, all you need is a USB-C hub. But with something like this, here I've got an iPhone 6s, and if you want to connect it to this one, you need the USB to Lightning adapter. And I always recommend getting the original one. You could get away with buying a third-party one, but if you do, make sure it's MFI certified. That's MFI certified. If you don't do that, you might end up wasting your money because that adapter might stop working after a new iOS update comes out. Now, you can of course use the older CCK to connect the MC-101 to your iDevice. However, you're gonna need a powered hub in between the CCK and the MC-101. Now, the connection is pretty much straightforward. Once you've figured out which of the ports you have on your iDevice and which of the adapters you need, either a hub or a USB 3 to Lightning adapter, you just connect the USB cable to the adapter or the hub, and then the adapter or the hub to the iDevice. Now for the remainder of the video, I'm going to be using the iPad. And now we just need to start up the MC-101. Now this goes fairly quickly if you're connecting to a USB-C equipped iDevice like I'm doing right now, but it took a little bit longer for it to actually start up when I connected it to my iPhone with a Lightning adapter. So there we go, it's started up and we can now get going. Now, as soon as you've got the Roland MC-101 connected to your iDevice like this over USB, well, it turns into the de facto sound interface, meaning all of the audio coming from the iPad will go into the unit here so you can monitor it from the MC-101, which is pretty neat. So yes, if you connect anything to the line outs here, then all of the things you do inside the iPad will be heard out through there. Same goes for the headphone port, of course. Now, there is something that a lot of people have been asking me over the years, and that is, can you connect several sound interfaces to iOS? And the answer is no, it can only handle one sound interface at any given time. So, if you've already got your MC-101 connected, then you cannot connect a second sound interface and have them both work at the same time. Now, when it comes to MIDI devices, on the other hand, you can connect several of them. So if you've got a MIDI interface or a MIDI keyboard, then that works, as long as they're not audio interfaces. Alright, so let me show you how you can record some stuff from the iPad into the looper here. Now, I've got AUM loaded right here, and I'm gonna start by loading a track. And actually, you know what? We need to jump over to the MC-101 first because I want to move from this project to a new one. So I'm going to press project and go to new, click, and then OK. And it starts making a new project. As soon as it's open, we can then continue. And there we go. Now we got 4 tracks on this, and I'm going to select track number 4, and I'm going to make that into a looper. So just scroll until we find looper and then tap. So we're in a looper mode, and what you need to do now is very, very important. You have to make sure that you set the looper mode so that it receives audio over USB. So how do you do that? Well, you hold down Shift and then press record to get into this menu here. Now, what you need to do is to scroll forward until you get to record source. You tap down here. Now, if we scroll all the way back, we get to something called PC, and this is the USB mode. Now we're able to record audio over USB. Tap down. Now there is one more thing you might want to do here, and that is go to recording measure, which is right after the recording source, and just make sure that you set it to whatever length you want. Right now it's recording one measure, 1 bar, and I want to change this into 4. Like that, and now we can exit the mode. So remember to change the recording source, and also remember to set the recording measure, how long of a loop you want to record. Now we're set to record stuff. Now what I'm gonna do here is add an instrument, and I'm gonna choose spacecraft. Like that. Now I want to record that into a loop, and so how do we do that? Well, we make sure that this thing is in recording mode now, like this, and now all we have to do is to play here and play here at the same time. That's really how straightforward it is to record into the looper mode in here. And that's actually how I recorded this bit. That sound is from a preset pack coming out very soon, together with an update for Agonizer Synth, bringing you that iPhone compatibility. So stay tuned for that. So next I want to show you how you can move samples over from your iPad to your MC-101 without ever having to pop out your SD card or anything like that. Now there are 3 ways of starting up the Groovebox and 3 modes. So the regular one where you just flip it on and it turns on and it's your Groovebox. And then you can also turn it on while holding down Shift, which turns it into update mode. And you use this mode for when you want to update the firmware. And you update firmware by placing the firmware in the roots folder of the SD card. Now you can do that over USB from your iPad or your iDevice. So you can basically upgrade your firmware from the iDevices too. Now the third mode is when you hold down project and start it up. When you do that, just tap and hold and start it up. You will put the MC-101 into storage mode. Now, this gives you access to the SD card over USB. And there you can see it says storage mode. And now what I'm gonna do here is open the Files app. I'm gonna begin by dragging up here and then opening up a new Files window on the side here in split view. So here we have 2 files windows side by side, and now we can drag stuff across. I'm gonna back here and go in to MC-101 right there. Here we have the update file, the firmware I talked about that I put here. And to move samples over into the MC-101, we go into Roland and then Groovebox and then sample. Here we can see I have a load of samples already. And if I wanted to add something in here, I could go in here to Loop Masters, Earth Moments, and India, for instance, vocals, and just take this and drag this over. Now, if I wanted to get more files in here, I could just select several ones and drag all of them in here. And if we check, we can see that here they are. Samples can be used for drum kits and for tones and also for the looper. Now, for iPhone users and for iPad mini users, for instance, devices where you can't run split screen, well, when you've got the MC-101 connected, you can still access the MC-101 SD card right in there. So all you have to do is to navigate to your files. And when you want to send something over, there are 2 ways of doing it. You can long press on a file and press copy up here. And when you've done that, you can then navigate back to the MC-101 SD card, go into Roland, Groovebox, Sample, Scroll, and then long press and paste. And the sample copies in like that. You can also move multiple files over by pressing these three dots up here. You choose this option at the top, select the files that you want to move over, press this icon over here, and then choose copy. Now we just move back to MC-101, Roland, Groovebox, Sample, scroll down so I have some space to just paste. There we go. And there you can see that it's pasting in. Now when you're done dragging over samples, you just simply turn it off and then you just turn it on again and you should have access to all of your files. I'm gonna select track 3 here and select drum, and instead of init kit I'm gonna select from wave file, and here we can see all the samples, and if I wanted to select one I just tap and we got it right there. And in here we can see all of the samples that I put over here. We can even find those Indian samples that I put over from Loop Masters. This is how simple it is. I absolutely love the Roland MC-101. It's a great companion to have with your iPad or your iPhone. And as soon as you hit a wall with this and you need some more samples in here, you can just work around it and get it from your iDevice. It's so simple and straightforward. And in the case of the USB-C equipped iPad Pros, you can actually power the MC-101 directly from it. While the Lightning equipped one, they always need that extra juice, that extra power, and you could easily get that from a USB battery, so you could still be very portable with your little mobile setup. The iPad or the iPhone, they're great sound sources. There's so many ways you can utilize this and get some awesome samples into your MC-101. For instance, I would highly recommend having a look at Spacecraft by Mark Watt that you've already seen me use in this episode, and also Borderlands Granular by Chris Carlson. Both of these apps are granular samplers basically, and they're perfect for experimenting with sounds and get some interesting new weird sounds for you to use with your MC-101. I would also recommend having a look at Sampler, which is on its own a perfect music making device, but you can easily get going with some experimental stuff and just try out some things that you can then end up using in your MC-101. Now, when it comes to chopping up samples, something you cannot do on the MC-101, you might want a tool for that. Now, if you want something more SoundForge-esque, then I would recommend an app called Auditor. Now, you also have something called Audio Share, which will allow you to record stuff to, a stereo track. And then it has some simple features like fade in, fade out, truncate, stuff like that. Simple stuff. If you're looking for ways to get sounds into your phone or your iPad, then there are a slew of USB audio interfaces that are all class compliant, which they need to be. You can't load any drivers, on an iDevice, so they need to be USB class compliant. Well, here are a collection of cards that I've researched over the years. Now, I haven't tested all of them, but I know people who do use all of these. Not all of them at the same time, but all of them. So they know they work, and I myself am using the Steinberg card up here. It's really nice being able to multi-track on an iDevice. And if you're looking for something mobile, then I would have a look at the Roland Go Mixer or something like the iRig Pro Duo. Now, before you leave, there is another unit that is very, very nice to use with iPhone and iPad, and that is the Teenage Engineering OPZ. This one has the exact same functionality when it comes to core audio and MIDI when you connect it to an iDevice. And if you want to see how you can do that, if you own one of these or if you're planning on getting one of these, then that video is in the upper right corner and also down in the description. Now, if you liked the video, why don't you hit me with a thumbs up? And if you didn't like the video, hit it with a thumbs down. If you want to support me, then sharing my videos are really, really helpful. Interacting with my videos, commenting down below. What do you think about the MC-101? Tell all of us reading in the comment section down there your opinion. If you want to support me in a financial way, go check out my music. I'm over at Spotify, iTunes. You can find me on Bandcamp, and Bandcamp is actually where I prefer people actually buying and listening to my music. Buying my music and listening to it. I'm Swedish. If you want to help me in any other way, then I've also got a Patreon, and you can use PayPal if you want that. And if you don't want to do any of it, that's okay too. As usual, I wish you a very productive week. Now go finger all of your stuff and have a lot of fun doing it.